A white plate arced through neon and smashed into the trash. Completely unacceptable, the head judge thundered. The market went silent. At Station 7, Nia Carter Black, steady, unblinking, lifted her knife. If they wanted a story, she'd cook one. New Orleans breathed heat and music that night. A living engine of brass horns, fry oil, and rain-washed streets. The Bayou Night Market thrummed beneath string lights. Vendors shouting over the hiss of flat tops, the air spiced with cayenne, chicory, and something electric, the promise that somebody's life might change before midnight. 10 metal prep. Tables formed a bright rectangle in the center aisle, each a small island lit by a harsh white cone, cameras prowling between them. The crowd stacked 3 deep behind stanchions, phones raised like a second constellation. Station 7 belonged to Nia Carter. She was 25, Atlanta-bred. The granddaughter who learned to measure by palmfuls and to taste until the memory said yes. She wore a plain black apron and a high bun secured with a velvet scrunchie that had once been her grandmother's. From the moment she stepped to the line, she felt the tug of every sideways glance, curious, doubtful, calculating. She knew what they were measuring wasn't just a dish, it was her. Color is not a crime, she reminded herself. Neither is confidence. Competitors, barked the floor producer, headset crackling. The host's voice boomed over the speakers. Welcome to Taste of Triumph, Night Market Edition. Tonight's opening challenge, tell us who you are in one plate. Your star, salmon. 60 minutes. Make it unforgettable. The horn sounded like a starting pistol. Flames popped. Steel sang. Nia palmed the fish cold, clean. A promisand let the market blur into a quiet she could move inside of. She pictured Sunday nights in her grandmother's shoebox kitchen, the slam of the oven door, the sweaty windows, the laughter barreling through gospel radio. She'd build something humble and fierce. Castile seared salmon with a honey mustard sauce. Glaze, roasted root vegetables kissed with thyme, a quick fennel slaw to cut through the fat. Honest food, elevated by precision. To her left, Ethan Hayes made noise. He always did. Tall, tattooed forearm, glossy with kitchen sweat. He unboxed caviar like it was a personality trait and told the hovering camera about deconstruction. And modernist metal feel. On Nia's right, Claire Thompson moved like Belial lavender-scented hands. Knife strokes you could count by metronome, a pan already shimmering with butter. Claire's eyes flicked to Nia's Station 1 heartbeat, unreadable and back to her own. Nia squared her shoulders. She salted the fish as if she were blessing it, starched the skin dry with paper towels, and set her Castile to heat until it smoked like a sermon. When the oil shimmered, she slid the salmon in skin side down. The sound a clean applause. She pressed it gently with her spatula to keep it flat. The way Nana had taught her foolproof crispness starts with patience, ambitious. Head Judge Vivian Holt murmured at Ethan's station, voice honeyed with skepticism. Vivian's silver hair was pulled tight, her presence cutting through the aisle like a chef's knife through pastry. She moved to Nia, scanning the modest array of roots, a jar of local sorghum, Dijon, lemon, fennel, understated maize, place. She said, neither praise nor insult. If it eats like it looks, you'll be fine. If not, she let the ellipses hang and moved on. Nia didn't chase approval. She chased balance. She whisked sorghum, Dijon, lemon, and a whisper of cayenne into a glaze that tasted like sunlight hitting a church window. She tossed carrots and turnips with thyme and slid them into a ripping hot oven. She shaved fennel into paper snow and let it wilt under lemon and a breath of salt. At 43 minutes, she checked the salmon, the skin lifted in one crystalline sheet. Perfect. She flipped, kissed the top with heat, and pulled the pan off to rest. A hip bumped her table. The jar of thyme skipped. Oops, Ethan said. Without looking, smile aimed at a camera. The jar didn't fall. Neither did she. Some people mistake quiet for permission. She moved the thyme out of his orbit and kept going. The market pressed closer, voices stacked. Brass band riffing at the end of the aisle, a baby asleep on someone's shoulder. Somewhere behind the crowd, a teen shouted, "Let her cook." and laughter broke like a wave. Nia's chest loosened. She spooned glaze over the resting fish, the sorghum catching the light like amber, and plaited fast but careful roots down like a little hillside. Salmon leaned as if it had just landed, slaw tucked at the crest. She touched the plate rim with a towel until it shone. Hands up. The floor producer yelled. 10 plates flew to the long tasting table. Under a swath of neon, the panel sat Vivian in a crisp chef coat. Leon Carver, shoulders like an oak bar, face set to skeptical. Rosa Nugent, eyes kind and laser-sharp. Leon tapped his fork against his thumb, a percussion line that made the air thinner. Ethan went first, deconstructing his own narrative while the caviar slithered and the fish wobbled. Vivian lifted a bite, chewed once, twice, then her jaw set. The white plate lifted in her hand. For one surreal beat, the market held its breath. Then the smash of ceramic into the trash can ripped the aisle in half. "This is completely unacceptable," she said, not yelling, projecting. Like a teacher who has taught 1,000 rooms to listen. Technique is not a costume. "Sit down, Mr. Hayes." The crowd's gasp swallowed itself. Ethan's cheeks brightened under the lights. He sat. Claire's dispatch, precise, perfumed, derned, polite nods. A competitor down the line caught heat for raw centers. Another, four-sauce that wrestled the fish and won. Station 7, the coordinator called. "Carter." Nia stepped forward and put herself on the table. She was the plate. The plate was her, a small hill of roasted roots, the salmon burnished and lacquered, fennel shining like frost. Vivian's fork cut a clean edge through flesh and glaze. Leon followed, grim by habit. Rosa waited, inhaled once like a prayer, and tasted. Silence has flavors. This one tasted like nerves and rosemary. Vivian set her fork down. "Unexpected," she said, and the word cracked like ice across Nia's skin. "It looks simple." A voice stepped in, and eats exact. Skin's a perfect chip. Glaze shows restraint. Roots are cooked, through seasoned, like someone tasted, not guessed. His scowl softened into something dangerously close to a smile. "Honest work." Rosa nodded, the corner of her mouth curling. "It tastes like someone taught you by feel, and you listened." The fennel gives the whole thing a clean exit. It's quietly confident. Nia kept her hands laced at her apron. She could feel the old urge to apologize for not being louder, shinier. She let it pass. The judges conferred in a small nod of shoulders, heads bowed into the glow. The market hummed, a generator of suspense. The host vamped. Brass drifted in from the street. A woman behind the barricade whispered, "That's the one with the sorghum," and another whispered back, "That glaze looked like a good decision." Vivian turned to the mic. "Tonight's opening challenge winner is a drum fill from the band, perfectly timed." Nia's heart leaped, then stilled itself, then leaped again. Nia Carter. The market blew up cheers. Whoops, the clatter of someone's bracelet against the rail. Nia didn't raise her hands. She exhaled. She nodded. She let the sound wash over her until it was just warmth. She knew what came next wouldn't be easier. Winds can paint a new target. She also knew why she was here. Not to be a symbol or a checkbox. To cook like the people who raised her mattered. To prove mostly to herself that the way she'd been taught to feed a room could stand under lights that burn. Back at Station 7, she slid a basil sprig into the pocket of her apron. A small, superstitious thing, cut from a vendor's bunch when the night was still young. Claire passed behind, quiet and swift, and murmured, "Crisp on that skin was surgical." It wasn't an alliance, not yet, but it wasn't nothing. Ethan kept his eyes fixed on the floor as a PA swept porcelain from the trash. The producer leaned into his mic and gave the signal. Cameras rolled. The host flashed a smile. The brass band found a higher gear. "Competitors," the voice boomed. "Congratulations, Nia. Round 2 is dessert, a memory on a plate. 50 minutes. Home cooks become legends in this course. Begin." Nia reached for peaches that tasted like July, and for a bottle of bourbon somebody's uncle should have hidden. Better, she kept the basil in her pocket and her grandmother's voice in her head. Food is a story, baby. Tell the truth. And if anyone still wondered whether color or quiet could count against you, she planned to answer the only way she trusted: one clean plate at a time. The cheers from Nia Carter's unexpected victory still echoed in the night market, but beneath the applause lingered a storm. Vivian Holt's sharp warning: this competition demands more, cut deeper than any knife. Winning one challenge hadn't silenced the doubts. It had only amplified the whispers as the neon lights flickered across the crowded stalls of the Bayou Night Market. The judges gathered once again at the center stage. Vivian's silver hair caught the glow, her expression as sharp as her words. "Competitors," she announced, voice carrying over the jazz trumpet echoing from a nearby corner. "Your next challenge is dessert. Something that evokes a childhood memory. You have 50 minutes. Begin." The horn blared, and the market erupted into chaos, bands clattering, mixers worry, knives flashing. For a brief moment, Nia froze. Childhood memories weren't sweet escapes for her, they were complicated. Her grandmother's kitchen had been her sanctuary. The smell of peach cobbler filling their cramped Atlanta apartment while hymns hummed through the sticky summer air. But those same summers carried the ache of her mother's absence, a hollow space no dessert could truly fill. Her fingers tightened on her knife. She knew what she had to do. She would bake peach cobbler, just like Nana's, but with her own twist. Cardamom in the crust, bourbon folded into the peaches, a flavor that honored both joy and loss. It wasn't glamorous, not the kind of dessert that shone with edible gold, like Claire Thompson's lavender panna cotta across the way. But it was hers, unapologetically hers. She peeled peaches quickly, juice slicking her hands, the scent rising. Into the humid night, her station buzzed with determination. But not all energy around her was kind. Ethan Hayes worked in stony silence, his pride still raw from humiliation. He shot her glances sharp as blades, and when her oven flickered, half dead from overuse, Nia caught the curve of his smirk. "Tough break," he muttered, turning back to his glossy chocolate torte. Panic clawed at her chest. Her cobbler was half-baked, its crust pale and soft. The clock was merciless. She jabbed at the controls, but the oven refused to heat. And then, unexpectedly, Claire appeared at her side, sliding a spare baking tray into her own oven. "Use mine," she said quietly, her blue eyes unreadable. "It's hot enough." Nia blinked, stunned. Hours ago, Claire had mocked her. Now she was offering help. Was it kindness or strategy? There was no time to decide. "Thanks," Nia said, slipping her cobbler in. The market seemed to hold its breath as the minutes bled. Away Nia, whipped cream with a furious rhythm, flecked with real vanilla, her arms aching as she fought to finish on time. She plated her cobbler, simply golden crust, jagged but proud, bourbon peaches gleaming like amber beneath. A dollop of whipped cream crowned it. Not perfect, not polished, but honest. The horn blared. Time was up. One by one, competitors presented their desserts. Ethan's glossy torte cracked under Vivian's fork, dense and fearless. Claire's panna cotta drew nods but little passion. Then came Nia. She carried her plate forward, legs trembling, chin lifted high. The judges leaned in. Vivian's fork broke the crust, steam curling upward. Leon Carver chewed with a grunt, his scowl softening almost imperceptibly. Rosa Nguyen closed her eyes at the first bite, a smile tugging at her lips. "This is bold," Vivian said finally, her tone measured. "Personal, the bourbon adds daring heat, but the execution, rough around the edges." Nia's heart dropped until Rosa leaned forward, her voice soft. "It's more than that. This dessert tastes like truth, like a child's summer, and a woman's courage." A ripple of warmth spread through the crowd. Leon gave a single nod. "It's real, and real is rare." Vivian's eyes lingered on Nia, unreadable. Then she arose, megaphone in hand. "The winner of this round is Nia Carter." The market erupted, cheers rising into the humid Louisiana night. Nia's knees nearly buckled. Twice now she had silenced her skeptics. Twice she had carried the weight of doubt and turned it into triumph. But Vivian's words still echoed, sharper than the applause. This competition demands more. Because victories attract enemies, and Nia could feel it's the heat of Ethan's glare, the tightness in Claire's smile, the whispering undercurrent of resentment around her. She clutched the basil sprig tucked into her apron pocket like a charm from Nana's kitchen, steadying herself. Bigger. This wasn't just about food anymore. It was about proving that color was not a crime. That a black woman's truth could outshine the brightest gold, and the night market had only just begun. The night market pulsed hotter than ever, its neon glow a living heartbeat against the humid Louisiana air. Nia Carter stood at Station 7, her apron damp, the basil sprig in her pocket now wilted but still clutched like a lifeline. 2 wins in a row should have felt like armor, yet doubt clung to her like smoke. Vivian Holt's voice lingered sharp as a blade. This competition demands more. The judges reconvened on stage, their presence commanding silence. Vivian lifted her megaphone, her silver hair gleaming under the string lights. Tonight's challenge, she declared, will test not only your skill, but your ability to collaborate. Teams of 2 will create a 3-course meal and appetizer, entree, and dessert using only ingredients from this market. 90 minutes. Choose your partners. Begin. The horn blared, and chaos swept through the market as contestants scrambled to pair off. Nia's stomach dropped. She didn't need to search, fate had already decided. Looks like we're together, Ethan Hayes said flatly, his tattooed arm flexing as he leaned over her station. His eyes glinted with the same bitterness he'd carried since his failures. It wasn't an invitation, it was an assignment. Nia forced herself to nod. Then, let's make it work. Their partnership was a cruel twist. Hours ago, Ethan had sabotaged her focus with a smirk and a bump of her table. Now their fates were bound together. He stalked toward the stalls, plucking ingredients with quick, aggressive movements. Glossy tomatoes, a rack of lamb, fragrant herbs. Nia added cornmeal, shrimp, and lemons. Their menu began to take shape. Shrimp bruschetta for the appetizer, herb-crusted lamb with couscous for the entree, and lemon tart with berry compote for dessert. It sounded promising. Execution would be war. Back at Station 7, their kitchen was a battlefield. Nia sliced shrimp with surgical precision, garlic and lemon scent rising as she toasted bread for the bruschetta. Ethan slammed pans and pounded herbs, searing lamb with a heat that matched his temper. The market roared around them, vendors shouting, jazz notes soaring, cameras circling like vultures, but their world narrowed to the clash of knives and unspoken hostility. You focus on presentation, Ethan snapped without looking up.
Oh.
Handle the flavor. Nia's jaw tightened. Flavor is everyone's job. The tension crackled. She forced herself to block him out, channeling her frustration into perfecting the appetizer. Shrimp gleamed, kissed with garlic butter, laid across toasted bread like jewels beneath fresh basil. Across the way, Claire Thompson worked gracefully with her partner, her station immaculate, her movements a contrast to Nia's and Ethan's. Storm. For a fleeting moment, Nia caught Claire's gaze. No smirk, this time only something unreadable. Was it pity, rivalry, or something else entirely? The clock ticked mercilessly. Nia's tart dough chilled in the corner while she whisked lemon curd, its tang cutting through the heavy night air. Ethan's lamb sizzled, filling the market with a smoky aroma that drew curious onlookers. Their food smelled like victory, but smelled wasn't enough. Vivian swept by, clipboard in hand. Her gaze flicked from Ethan's lamb to Nia's tart. Sharp as a scalpel, teamwork makes or breaks a dish, she said coldly. I hope you two can deliver. Ethan scoffed audibly, but Nia met Vivian's eyes and nodded. We will. Minutes melted away. Together they played at our bruschetta, gleaming under the lights, lamb nestled in golden couscous, tart dusted with powdered sugar, berries like scattered rubies. For the first time, their efforts looked cohesive, almost harmonious. The horn blared. Time was up. They carried their dishes to the judge's dais. The crowd hushed. Vivian tasted the bruschetta, expression unreadable, then passed it to Leon, who grunted approval. Rosa sampled the lamb, her smile faint but genuine. The tart drew raised eyebrows, ambitious but uneven. Finally, Vivian spoke. The appetizer is vibrant, the entree robust, the dessert delicate but rough. One of you carried this team, but together, you've delivered. Leon leaned forward. The team of Carter and Hayes wins this round. The crowd erupted. Relief washed through Nia, but it was bittersweet. Vivian's words cut deep. One of you carried this team. Ethan's glare made it clear who he thought had been the weak link. Back at their station, Ethan muttered, "Next time, try not to drag me down." Nia didn't answer. She only touched the basil sprig in her pocket, its faint scent grounding her. She wasn't fighting Ethan anymore. She was fighting something larger, a system that doubted her from the start, a world that told her color was a crime, that her story didn't belong here. And as the market's neon lights burned against the midnight sky, she made herself a promise she would not just survive this, she would redefine it. The Bayou night market glowed brighter than ever, a constellation of neon and firelight, as the final round of Taste of Triumph loomed. Crowds pressed shoulder to shoulder, their voices rising in a restless hum. Vendors paused their hawking. The jazz band fell silent. Every gaze turned to the three remaining contestants, Nia Carter, Ethan Hayes, and Claire Thompson. Nia stood at Station 7, her chestnut skin gleaming under the lights, curls pulled back into a tight bun. She pressed the basil sprig in her pocket, now brittle, a reminder of Nana's kitchen back in Atlanta. Her wins and setbacks had carried her this far, but Vivian Holt's words consistency is king echoed like thunder. Tonight would decide everything. Vivian stepped forward, silver hair blazing like a torch under the canopy. Finalists, she announced, her voice cutting through the humid night. You have 90 minutes to create a signature dish, one that defines who you are as a chef and as a person. It must be unforgettable. Begin. The horn's cry unleashed chaos. Ethan lunged toward the stalls, snatching up lamb and spices with the desperation of a man clawing for redemption. Claire moved gracefully, her hand selecting lobster and delicate herbs, every gesture refined. Nia closed her eyes for a heartbeat. She thought of Nana Sunday nights with peach cobbler, laughter echoing in a cramped kitchen, her grandmother's voice whispering, "Food ain't just fuel, baby, it's your story." And she knew. Shrimp and grits. Simple, southern soulful. Elevated for the stage, she darted to the stalls, gathering shrimp fresh from the Gulf, stone-ground grits, smoked paprika, and okra. Back at Station 7, she worked with a calm intensity, peeling shrimp with quick fingers, the briny scent filling her lungs. She set the grits to simmer in a smoked shrimp broth, stirring aged cheddar into a creamy silk. Ethan's station roared with fire, his lamb seared and dripping with bravado. Claire's ravioli emerged like lace, delicate and precise. Around them, whispers spread through the crowd. Can Nia really compete with that? Isn't shrimp and grits too humble for the finale? The sting was familiar. Her whole life, she'd been told her place, her limits. Tonight, she'd rewrite them. Midway through, disaster struck. Her okra, meant to fry crisp, softened in the market's heavy air. Panic clutched her chest. For a moment, Leon Carver's doubt, does she belong in the finale, echoed loud. But Nia's instincts surged. Improvising, she flash roasted the okra in chili oil, coaxing out a brittle edge, smoky and sharp. It wasn't in the plan, but neither was her life. She'd always had to adapt, to survive, to prove she deserved to stand where others assumed she didn't. Vivian swept by, her clipboard poised. Ambitious, she said coolly, eyeing the broth. But ambition alone won't win. Nia, jaw set. It's more than ambition, she replied. Steady. It's truth. As the final seconds ticked away, she plated with reverence. A bowl of creamy grits, shrimp seared golden in smoked broth, topped with emerald okra, crisped to perfection. Garnished with a sprig of basil, the same herb Nana had once tucked behind her ear. The horn sounded. Time was up. The finalists carried their plates to the judges. Ethan's lamb, ruby rare, drew Leon's grunt of approval. though Rosa noted the sauce was heavy. Claire's lobster ravioli earned Vivian's rare smile, though she murmured, "Safe." Then came Nia. Her bowl sat humble before the judges, steam curling like a prayer. Vivian's spoon dipped into the grits, then the shrimp, then the okra. She chewed slowly, her expression unreadable. Leon followed, his scowl softening as he took a second bite. Rosa closed her eyes, and when she opened them again, there was a glint of tears. The silence stretched, the crowd holding its breath. Then Vivian set down her spoon, her voice low but resonant. "This is extraordinary. The grits are flawless. The broth is a revelation. The okra unexpected fire. Miss Carter, this is you, on a plate, bold, unapologetic, profound." Rosa leaned forward, her voice thick. "It tastes like home. Like love and loss and courage all at once." Leon cleared his throat, his gravel softened. "I was wrong. You don't just belong here, you are a chef." The market exploded in cheers. Vivian lifted her hand. "The winner of Taste of Triumph is Nia Carter." Nia froze, tears pricking her eyes as the crowd roared. She pressed the basil sprig in her pocket, trembling as Vivian handed her the prize check. She saw Nana's face in her memory, proud and smiling. And for a moment, the world felt whole. Ethan, humbled, offered a nod. Claire, in the crowd, gave a faint smile that carried respect rather than rivalry. And Neoshe stood tall, shoulders squared, chest rising with a steady breath. Because this wasn't just about winning a contest. It was about proving that color is not a crime. That talent, grit, and heart transcend bias. That dreams born in cramped kitchens can blaze bright under neon lights. As the jazz band struck up again, and the night market surged with joy, Nia lifted her head high. "This is just the beginning," she whispered, and it was. Nia Carter's journey reminds us that resilience and truth can break down barriers built by prejudice and doubt. Her victory wasn't just hers, it was a victory for every voice ever silenced, every dream ever dismissed. If this story inspired you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Because there are countless more stories of courage, triumph, and justice waiting for you here.